Hey everyone, it's Brittany of BZ Art, and today we're going to learn how to make my axolotl from my axolotl pattern. This pattern is available on my website for sale, and it's not a new pattern, but it has gotten moved to the new layout, and I figured I would do a video tutorial to go along with it. Before we get started, there are birds in the craft room as usual, and they might make some noise. So if you hear something going on, that's what that is. Alright, so to get started, we are going to start with the gills. Now, this is my least favorite part of the pattern because there's just so many of them. But what you're going to do is you're going to cut out all 12 gill pieces. And I actually used an air-soluble marking pen. That's what that purple that you see is, if it focuses. That purple is my air-soluble marking pen, and we're actually going to be using that a lot. So I think this, yeah, this is Dritz brand, I'm pretty sure, and it's just a disappearing ink marking pen. And what happens is you use it on the fabric like a normal pen, and it will vanish over time. And this is required for this pattern, or you can use something similar like a water-soluble pen or a heat-soluble pen. Just basically anything that you can draw on the good side of your fabric and have it totally disappear will work. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut those out. You're going to lay them with the wrong sides together so that the fuzzy bits are out. And then you want to mark the little lines here for the top sewing. I'm not actually going to do that because I kind of just know where they are, but that's what you'll want to do. And then I'm going to just put a pin down the middle to hold them together. And then I'm going to sew those little top sewing lines. And the really annoying thing about these is that it tends to get stuck. So what I do is I sew a couple lines, and then I pull that up. I pull out the threads so I can grab onto them and then start sewing again. And that way I can pull it through so the ends are not getting stuck. And then you just go ahead and finish that top sewing. Then you're going to take it, trim off the tails, and there are marked on the pattern 3 little cut lines on each side. So you're just going to make those cuts. Be sure that you don't cut that seam that you just sewed. And you have 1 gill. It's going to be very linty, but minky doesn't fray, so it will be fine once you get rid of all of that fuzz. And you're just going to repeat that process until all of them are done. It's a little time consuming, not my favorite. I've already done it so that you don't have to watch that happen. Okay, the pattern has you cut out 2 head pieces, but only one of them needs the marks for the eyes and the placement for the gills. So you're going to take that one that you've done the markings on, and you're going to start pinning the gills to it. So how I like to do this is I pin one there, and then I kind of overlap the next one and pin that there. And then same thing with the third one, just overlap it a little and pin it into place. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take one of the head gusset pieces and pin it at point C, which is the base of the neck there. And then it's got to go all the way around to point D, which will be down here. Right, and then you're going to go ahead and sew from C to D. And then after I do that, I'm going to clip off some of this excess seam allowance. When you finish that, you're going to repeat that whole process for the other side of the head, pinning on these 3 gills, and then the head gusset, and then sewing from C to D, and then I trim the excess seam allowance. When when you finish that whole process, you're going to take the other headpiece and you're going to pin it to the edges of these head gussets, and then in the front here you're going to pin it to the other headpiece. And then once you've pinned it, you're going to sew from C to D, sew the two head pieces together, and from this point D to this point C. And the next step is going to be putting the eyes in. So you're going to find the marks that you made for your eyes on the one piece that you did mark them, and that one should be the one where the gills are attached between it and the head gusset. And you're going to use a pair of small scissors and make a small hole, or use an owl, AWL, like I'm doing here, and make a hole and then insert the safety eyes. I tend to prefer my little scissors, but I figured I'd show you guys what it looks like to use the owl, which I've only ever seen it spelled, so I hope that's how you say it. Anyway, you just use the point to go in between the weave, and you just kind of wiggle and push to make a hole in the weave. The benefit of doing this is that none of the fibers are broken theoretically, and so it's less likely that the hole will stretch or rip bigger. I kind of haven't seen a whole lot of difference in long term because my plushies are meant for adults and not children, but I think that if you were making something specifically for children, that it might be a good call just to make it a little bit more durable. So just like normal, you insert the eye, snap the washer on the back. I'm going to repeat that for the other one. And then I like to trim the back of the posts because I think that it helps it sit nicer. I think this is also something only I really notice. When I'm stuffing, it makes it easier, but I like to do it anyway. And from there, you're going to go ahead and turn the head right side out and stuff it. So when your head is done, you can go ahead and set that aside, and then we're going to get started on the legs. So with the legs and with any piece that's just going to be sandwiched pieces of the two. Oh, that just didn't make a whole lot of sense, did it? Let me try and rephrase that. Any piece that is just the same piece mirrored is got all of the above. Oof, okay. When you're sewing a flat shape like this, where it's just the same piece mirrored, it's okay to just completely ignore the seam allowance and only sew on the exact sewing line. And that's what I did for all of these leg pieces. I don't know why, there's just something about them that I find a little bit hard to manipulate, and I can manage other pieces pretty well, just something about these legs. So what you'll do is you'll just sew around the legs and then leave the ends here open to turn it right side out. And that's the same for the back and front legs. I'm pretty sure the pattern just has it all together too, because aside from the shape of the legs, it's very, very similar process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew from there all the way around, stop here, and then you'll see me cut off all this excess fabric. I'm going to turn it right side out and then stuff. Okay, so that is one leg finished. I do think that is a back leg. So you're gonna go ahead and do that with all of the other legs. I've already done it. There's a front one, and here's the other two, and a spoiler for the next step. The next step is gonna be to attach the legs to one side of the body. So I've marked the letters on here. You'll want to make sure that your legs just line up with these same letters. That's just to help you make sure that the legs are facing the right way, because I do have the bend in the front leg goes kind of down like this, whereas the bend in the back leg kind of goes that way. So it can get easy to mix them up. So just go ahead and pin those in place. Okay, and once you've pinned the legs in place, you're going to pin the belly from point A to point B, and that will sandwich those legs in between there. Once that's all pinned on, you're going to sew from points A to B, and it will sew these legs up in between because it's sandwiched in there. When you do go over the legs, it's a very thick area, so if your sewing machine can't quite handle that level of thickness, it might have some skip stitches or it might break the thread. If that happens to you, I would switch to a different needle that's meant for thicker fabrics, like a jean needle, or I would just skip those areas and hand sew them. And you can sew like up to the leg, leave a gap, and then sew and then put the leg in afterwards and hand sew it if that is easier for you. My machine can do it though, so it's not generally a problem. But I have had an older machine where I really struggled with this. I'm just going to check that all my legs are sewed up in there, and they are. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pin the other side of the body, which you're going to need to put the legs on. Like I said, I already did that. And you'll pin it to the other side of the belly from point A to B. And then where that ends, you'll pin it to the other side of the body, all the way around the tail and all the way around the top. And then you'll leave this neck open to turn it right side out. And once you're done pinning it, then you're going to sew it and turn the body right side out. Alright, so the next step is going to be to do the top sewing that will define the tail and the bits of the detail on the fins. And how I like to do that is to print 2 copies of the pattern. One has the tail in all of its glory, and the other one has just the tail without the fins. And I like to place it over the actual plush here, and I'm going to take my air soluble marker and I will mark where the lines for the tail are, and then I like to mark the starts of the fins here so I know where those are. And then from there I'll take the full piece and I'll kind of put it over and mark the ends of the lines for the detail here. And once I've marked those, I can connect them kind of like this. And it doesn't matter if they're not exact. No one knows. No one knows. I mean, unless people are sitting there with the pattern comparing it inch for inch, no one really knows if yours are a little off or you have one extra. So don't stress about it. Once you have those drawn in there, you're just going to go ahead and do all of the top sewing, which is a little bit tedious. So here we go. Once you've finished stuffing it, you can go ahead and attach the head. So how you do that is you just kind of put the head right here so that the middle seam in the back is right in the middle of the head there. And you're going to use a ladder stitch to connect it. Get my thread out of this pile of scraps. Okay, so to do a ladder stitch, you're going to come in from the back side of the fabric, and then you are going to take your needle and put it in and out the right side of the fabric, and then you'll hop over to the other piece you're connecting, in and out. In and out. And just repeat that process all the way around and pull it tight every now and then. And I'm going to go around twice to make sure that it is nice and secure. All right, my battery is dying, so I don't think that we're going to get to the end, but this is the first round all the way done. And there he is, or she, I don't know. Looking just absolutely cute. I'm gonna give it another go around to finish it up, but once you've done that, the plush will be completely done. Sorry to leave you guys with such an abrupt ending, but it is blinking red. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.